At the end of the coming season, Sergio Aguero will leave Manchester City. Today we'll be discussing his impact on City and the Premier League as a whole, whilst also discussing whether we think he is one of the Premier League greats. So if that's your cup of tea, stay tuned.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast, Beating the Press. Two hosts, myself, Ty. We've obviously got Chris with us as well today. Today, we are going to ask all you guys listening, watching, viewing, get us to 100 subscribers. We're nearly there.
85.
Normally it's Chris pushing it, but I was like, we'll just let it go. Now that we're nearly there, we need your little extra push just to get us there. But yeah, coming back to what we're talking about today, it's going to be about the great striker. Obviously, breaking news. I say breaking news recently, but yeah, it's sad news if you're a Man City fan, I'd say. The great Sergio Aguero leaving our league. So, Chris, initial thoughts when you heard he was leaving?
Yeah, you just said Man City fans will be sad. I am actually really sad that he's gone, because it's like another legend that we've grew up with. I think he got signed in 2011, and he gave us unbelievable moments. I've just got just some of the accolades up here. I'm just going to do the first three, and it just shows you the stature of the man. So Aguero is the highest scoring overseas player with 257 goals in 384 games. He's got the best Premier League minutes per goal ratio at 108 minutes. And obviously, in my opinion, he's got the most iconic moment of Premier League history. Can you really argue with that?
I see the iconic moment. I've seen that, and I think unbelievable. I think you ask everyone. I know exactly where I was at the time when that goal happened.
Yeah.
And when I say that goal, and for the people that don't know, I'll be shocked if you don't. But it's the Aguero goal that won Man City the first Premier League title in the 96th minute or whatever. So the Aguero, my entire thing. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I've watched that goal obviously quite a few times. It's been on Sky Sports News. And apart from the actual finish, I think the touch just before the finish was just majestic and made that goal. You watch it, it was just like a little cushion. And then obviously Aguero power with no backlift, typical Aguero strike. But yeah, no, iconic, it's 100% in the top three. But I think there are other moments in the Premier. I think the Fergie Brian Kidd one when he knee slid, not like mid-90s, I think that's quite iconic as well. There's obviously the Keegan rant. There's just, the Gerrard slip as well for quite a lot of, non-Liverpool fans, and it's they've obviously used that as a stick to beat us with. I just think it's absolutely in the top three, and if people think it's the most iconic moment in the Premier League history, I think that, there's not really an argument, and it's just that personal preference.
I think it's certainly up there as the most dramatic moment of Premier League history. But obviously, I've watched that moment a couple of times this year. Now I'm obviously a Liverpool fan. But no, I am sad. I spoke to a Man City fan earlier on today who works with me. And surprisingly, he's not as choked up as he probably would be, maybe like this time last year or the season before, just because of how well Man City have done. But I was just looking at some stats before we came on, and Sergio Aguero last season, he scored one goal every 90 minutes. So it's not like he's on a decline performance-wise. It's just mainly his body that's letting him down.
Yeah. Just a question for you, Chris. Where were you when that moment happened? The Aguero goal. I'll tell you a little backstory of where exactly why it was. It's unbelievable.
I was just in my front room. I had like a plate on the floor. It was like a plate of spaghetti bolognese, and and it had like a little bit left. And obviously, people are going to say that was salty. Anyone but United fans. But honestly, it could have been anyone else that was going up against them that day. But as soon as he scored, I jumped, landed on the spaghetti. The plate went flying, spaghetti against the wall, the lot.
Do you know? I was. You probably know a couple of I was the place I used to work. There was myself. There was a mixture of Leeds United fans, Man City, no, not Man City, Leeds United, and Man United and Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
So for Man United, it was not Man City fans. For Man United fans, it was literally everyone was wanting sort of Man City to do it, and obviously there was Man United fan, single Man United fan, Jay, you might remember him from
yeah, I do.
So obviously, you know, Pompey, they've got QPR on it, so not Pompey. QPR have scored, they're winning 2-1, and then, you know, you're thinking dead and better. Then the Dzeko goal, Dzeko scores, and then the Aguero moment, and I just remember everyone, Man United fan, got up and just ran around the office. Watched it, just ran, and I remember Jay's face, he just felt absolutely crumpled. And can you imagine, you know what I mean? It was, I couldn't believe it had happened, and just the dramatic nature of it. It's just one of those moments, you know, you remember exactly where you were and what happened, but that was just brilliant, you know what I mean? Absolutely phenomenal. But absolutely. just sort of moving on from that, I think he came in 2011, now it's 2021, he's been here for 10 years. In terms of consistency, both domestically and in Europe, he's just been top notch. I mean, Man City have bought some top strikers, great strikers who've come and gone. He's just sort of been there throughout. And we talk about Man City legends and players that have made a huge difference to them from when the sort of Sheikhs took over, and you go Company, Silva, Aguero. They're your three. Do you know what I mean? They're the three that have had the biggest influence, and he feels like he's the last. Well, he is the last one now that's moving on. Obviously, Company moved on the year before, Silva, then Aguero. Do you know? And I just think it's sad, and I did say earlier it was Man City fans, but I think it's sad for everyone, because even when we used to play against him, and I've never, you get players that you have a dislike for, and you want them to fail, and you want to fuck up.
Yeah.
The Aguero, he's never had that arrogance about him. He's never given that impression for opposition fans that, you know, we can hate you. You just respect him and appreciate how good he is.
I just want to jump in there. I just want to ask you a question, then a follow-up question. Do you think he has been Man City's best ever player? If not, would you say he's their most important ever player?
When we're talking about Man City, don't ask me about.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, bear in mind, obviously, our age.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking about Paul and that, and also like, you know, magnitude of moments. You know, the first title, etc.
It's a hell of a question, but for me, yes, I just think he's been consistency. I think De Bruyne stays. De Bruyne will be that player.
Yes.
But at the moment, I think Aguero, and I'll say both. I know Company got a load of, you know. But Company was injured a lot, lot, you know what I mean? Silva, it took him a while to get into it as well, whereas Aguero just sort of hit the ground running and has been brilliant throughout. It's only sort of the last 12 months where he sort of started picking up injuries and stuff. And you know, he's played under so many different managers, and even when Guardiola came on, people were like, oh, he won't fancy him. He was integral to the way he was playing, do you know what I mean? So for me, yes, I think he's been Man City's, when I say best ever, I mean in terms of sort of from the 90s onwards, because that's when I've watched City. I don't know the Colin Bells and, you know, the other guys that they mentioned before that. But yeah, for me, absolutely, I think he's been the most influential, important, best player for City. Yeah. But De Bruyne will, I think, if he stays long enough, will end up that player.
Yeah, well, like obviously they're talking about like City are going through like a golden period at the moment, and they're effectively writing their history right now. Yeah. So pretty much everyone will have a statue by the time this next decade's up with Pep Guardiola and what have you. But I think Sergio Aguero will be one that will definitely be, like, they'll be planning that already.
Just to throw one at you, Chris. Obviously, Aguero, when you mention Aguero, you can't not bring up the conversation for the best striker ever to play in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. For you, where does he rank?
I was going to ask you that. I was going to see what your answer was.
I don't know my answer yet, so I'll see what you say first, and I'll have a think.
So I always, for me, it's not always about numbers, and that's probably where it kind of goes against Aguero, because, you know, he's pretty much second to none when it comes to goals per game. Minutes per goals. Obviously, he falls behind, I think, Thierry Henry and maybe another couple for the all-time scorer.
He's behind Sher, I think Andy Cole as well.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's always went Thierry Henry, just because of the goals and the way that he played the game. I think Alan Shearer, just because, again, he is the all-time leading scorer and the type of teams that he'd done it in. Then I think you're in with a shout, because obviously you've got a lot of great strikers. You think of even Andy Cole. He used to have about 5 chances and put one in, but he never scored penalties. Like, I think he only ever scored 1 penalty in his career. So to have like the scoring record that he had was absolutely phenomenal. Then, people that you don't even think about, like Van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie. But yeah, I would say, Harry Kane will probably propel himself to that level. But I would say, as things stand, he's definitely in the top 4. Definitely in the top 4 for me. What about yourself?
I think it's such a tough question for you, but you talk about a finisher, ice cold finisher. I think is the best.
Yeah.
I don't think we talk about Thierry Henry, obviously great goals. It is always Henry scored great. It's a tough one. I mean, Henry scored great goals, and he was a great goal scorer. But in terms of ice cold, and I think the biggest indication of how good a striker, I think minutes, how many minutes it takes you to score a goal.
Excellent.
And it's top for that. You talk about different teams he's played under, and I think to sort of caveat that as well, I actually think he's the most underrated player in the history of the Premier League. He's never got the credit he deserves. So whenever the conversation comes up, the best striker the league's ever seen, it's always an Henry, Shearer. Do you know what I mean? That sort of, and Aguero doesn't really get into the conversation. Yeah. And I might be completely off here. And if you think I'm wrong, please let me know. Comments below, the normal jazz. But I don't think he's ever got the credit he deserved.
Just on that, I don't know whether it was, I heard this sometime last year or maybe the season before. Has he never ever won Player of the Year award? Like a Premier League, PFA, or anything like that? I don't know,
but that's probably, that's not a bad shot. I mean, it sounds about right, that, to be fair. I just don't think that's it. I don't think it's a weird one, because, I mean, I'm struggling why he hasn't got, there's other strikers that, I mean, Harry Kane seems to get more plaudits than Aguero. I mean, I'd imagine it's because he's English, you know what I mean? They generally do. I mean, there's strikers, but my God, I just don't think he's ever got what he deserves. And it's almost like sometimes players like Torres and Suarez even get more. And we're Liverpool fans, and I just feel, I mean, I might be completely off, but it's just the sense I've got.
Yeah, for me, I think, I do agree with you. I feel that he is a victim of something that he's phenomenally good at. He's got one specific trait that kind of elevates that, like, it kind of diminishes kind of the other traits, even though the other traits are not even that bad. If you think about Pep, obviously he's let's be honest, he's not really Pep's cup of tea. Pep would prefer a Jesus or a Bobby Firmino type player. Aguero's akin to like Haaland, for example. We had the debate last week. We said Haaland or Mbappe. We were basically saying that Mbappe had the all-around game, whereas Haaland only just put the ball in the back of the net. And, it's a phenomenal skill to have. It's the most difficult skill to have. But he's a victim of that because he is that good at doing that, and everything else is just brought down a level.
Absolutely. So I'm just there's obviously been rumours, obviously Man City need to replace him. And there's rumours of Haaland. And what do you think? Do you think, again, this is just going to be speculation, do you think Guardiola goes and buys another striker, or does he stick with Jesus and scores with his false nines, which obviously they've played a large percentage of the season without a striker and they've not been successful? Do you think that's the sort of model he's going to take forward? Because he just seems to he has a team full of midfielders, doesn't he?
Well, I think they're maybe the only team that's ever won the Premier League without a striker, so to speak. They haven't really had him. I don't think they had him a couple of years ago when they won it. But yeah, I just think the lazy answer is obviously Haaland. Everybody seems to be going, if I'm just going to pull something off the papers, it would be Haaland. But I'm thinking about what you said in your most previous in the podcast I'm referring to before, in that he doesn't really fit Pep Guardiola's style, and I always thought City would be primed. I always thought, and I still would have thought, that Aguero being shipped out would be making way for effectively Haaland's wages. But I've come around to your way of thinking in that I can't see that development, but knowing this,
I mean, yeah. I mean, at the start of the season, I think Man City are more likely to start with De Bruyne as a false nine than they are with Haaland as a nine. That's just how I see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, completely wrong. So yeah, just it was always going to be a short, quick one with obviously Aguero. But for the viewers, listeners, just let us know below who you think. Do you think Aguero is the best striker of the Premier League era? If so, let us know. And if you don't think he is, just let us know who he is as well.
So just thinking about where he's going to go next, obviously, I think he's turned 33 in June or July, sometime in the summer. We obviously thought that Messi was perhaps coming to City, with all the rumours that were coming last year. And one of the biggest things that would have attracted Messi to come into Man City would obviously be Aguero. Obviously, he's got some kind of a relationship with him. He's roomed with him since he was 17-year-old. I think Messi's the godfather of his child. Now I'm kind of thinking, does it go in reverse? Maybe he goes to Barcelona.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, I really hope he doesn't leave Europe and goes to like Boca Juniors or River Plate, whichever club he goes to. And I think he's end of his kid. I think he's too good for that, and I really don't want him to go to MLS or China.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's obviously rumours about Barcelona. Is he going to go? I mean, could he potentially go back to Spain and Atletico Madrid? Where it sort of started, I don't know. But my only sort of wish is, like I said, he stays in Europe. I want to see him in Champions League for a bit longer. I don't think he's there yet in terms of going and to Far East, Middle East, America, or even going back home. I think he's got another couple of years left. Obviously not at the. I mean, obviously that he probably could have done, but again, his injuries have sort of played. But then it's like the flip side of it is the wages. Wages will be quite a bit as well. So there's only a select few clubs that could potentially. What about you?
Yeah, because Barca are basically trying to cut their wage bill, if anything. But if they're wanting to keep Messi, it's definitely a great bargaining chip to play with. Obviously, I'm like you. I don't want him to go to. I think it's into Miami. Something like that in America.
Beckham's team, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't want him to go there, but because like you said there, he's way too good. I can't see him obviously going to another Premier League club. That's just suicide. Asking him to go to another club. But yeah, that's it. And just one last thing. I don't know if you heard in the news, like since it came out, I think it was maybe like someone like Oliver Holt, one of the journalists mentioned that. He brought back up a tweet back from 2011, 2012. Do you know which one I'm on about? Do you know which journalist I'm on about?
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're on about.
Where he basically said Liverpool have signed Charlie Adam and Man City have signed Sergio Aguero. I think Liverpool have got a better deal.
And do you know what? I'll tell you what, full credit to him as well. He bought it up himself, didn't he? And he has bought it up himself because we don't always get it right.
Can we forget about this now?
yeah. And I get that. Do you know what I mean? I like that fact. He's having a bit of a laugh at himself. But no, absolutely. But it's good. I mean, we don't always get it right, and sometimes those opinions come back to bite us in the backside, and obviously that's how it did for him. But no. But yeah, that wraps up this episode, this Sergio Aguero special. As we said, any comments, likes, subscribe, you know what to do. Put those buttons below. Thanks for listening, guys, and see you next week.
See you next week, guys.